Hey, what's up, Global Village? I want to talk about artificial intelligence, and I guess more specifically, the type and form of insidious plagiarism that the world is being subjected to because of the advent of these large language models and chatbots. And some of the admittedly quite remarkable things they can do, but the price we are paying as a society because of it. But before I get into the nitty gritty, I want to give a little bit of background. And the reason I want to do that is that I don't want this discussion to be simply just another beat up of AI and how AI is just inherently and all evil, because I don't believe that's the case. I think AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in a positive and negative way. Uh, a very obvious example would be a shovel. You can use a shovel to dig a hole, and you can also use it to bash someone over the head with it. Two very different uses, one probably a lot more productive than the other. But to make this a lot more personal to my particular situation, I will explain the extent to which I use AI and why I use it. So, I guess it was shortly after the pandemic, I was diagnosed with late stage glaucoma, and I went through, I guess, what I would call a very traumatic time in my life, of which I have kind of pseudo documented by writing a couple of short stories, which I have actually uploaded onto my YouTube channel, and which actually go to highlight the point I'm just about to make. So I'm not here to talk in detail about my personal journey through becoming significantly visually impaired. And you're welcome to go and listen to my sort of surrealist, very dark short stories that I wrote on the subject if you're curious about sort of hearing about my journey in a more allegorical way. But the point is that prior to me losing most of my sight, I've been a software engineer for my entire life. And so I've always been able to enjoy gainful employment. I was just lucky in that because I'm pretty old, so that I never had trouble getting a job. That's one of the privileges I've managed to enjoy in my life, is that I've never struggled for employment. And as a developer, I just found a skill set that made me commercially viable, and so I've had a much easier journey than I think a lot of people younger than me are having today, where they're finding it incredibly hard to find gainful employment. But with that out of the way, what actually happened is that prior to me losing most of my sight, I was becoming jaded and a little bit disillusioned with my career. I I love being a software developer. It was just in my blood, and I do plan to make a video at some other point just actually walking through my career as a developer, from beginning to end, just because it is a closed story now. The book is complete on that aspect of my life, and it would be nice just to reflect in more detail about my journey I took. But that said, I was becoming jaded. I was becoming a little bit disillusioned. I was like, is this it? Is this the whole point of my life? Is there more to my life than this? And when I interrogated myself internally, what I came to realize is that I have always loved writing. Writing is just something that excites me. It's a very intimate form of expression. It's equal parts craft, but it's also equal parts artistic. And in a way, it's like speaking to or trying to connect with the very deepest part of who you are, who you think you are, who you want to discover yourself to be. There's a form of growth in writing as a human being that I really find quite powerful and compelling. So all of this is to say that I have fantasized for many a year about being a writer, and it was always just a fantasy. There was nothing to suggest that I could ever be good enough to actually ever make it something I could do to earn money. But it was something that felt like a fire within me, and something that I really enjoyed. And as a consequence, I reflected this in the way I engaged in social media, in that unlike just posting, like a short sentence or a meme or a picture of what I'm having for dinner, I would often go on these sort of multi-paragraph, complicated diatribes, and that's how I would tend to engage with social media, because I just love writing, and I love the process of putting my ideas down and exploring them through words. And I guess it's a way of me being able to say things and then spend some time actually thinking about what it is I'm saying, so it can be a little more curated and a little more considered. So anyway, the whole point of that is that I love writing, and I loved writing before I started losing my eyesight. But I just never really, it was kind of something that in the back of my mind I thought, well, this is something I can do as a hobby when I finally decide to leave my job. And towards the end of my career, I was reaching this I was reaching the stage where I was just like, oh God, I just want to be out of this. I want to leave this world that I just don't like being in anymore. I just love to be able to write just for the sake of being able to write. And so I'd been very diligent with my saving for at least the last, I don't know, 15 or so years of my life. I've been very considered about saving up my money, with the idea that I can just get out of being a developer and just go and do what I want to do, and I'm not under pressure to actually earn money doing it. I can just do it because it's something I'm passionate about. And then, of course, I got diagnosed with glaucoma, and that kind of caused a premature end to my career. But fortunately, I still had enough money to essentially be able to live off my savings, which again makes me a very privileged person, and it's not something I take for granted. I wake up each morning and I count my blessings, despite what happened to me and despite the trauma of what happened to me. So that is it. I love writing, but the problem now is that, of course, I can't see very well, and in fact, my sight is so bad that it's it's virtually impossible for me to effectively read. I can, put on a pair of glasses, I can push my face up against the screen, and I can sort of make out individual words and kind of string a sentence together, and it's painful. So consequently, I use a lot of speech to text when I'm engaging the internet, because it just means I can actually do things in a reasonable time frame. Ironically, though, I can write better, and it's a combination of me actually typing stuff on my keyboard and using speech to text. And because of what happened to me, because of the premature end of my career, I decided, well, I'm going to do what I always dreamed of doing. I'm going to actually, buckle down and write. And one of the things that has been tremendously helpful to me in writing is artificial intelligence, and in two ways. One is the speech-to-text technology, which just helps me to kind of write things a little more quickly than I would be able to do if I was only having to type everything in, which would cause it to be painfully slow. So I find what works best for me, given my level of visual impairment, is to use speech to text, then go back, to use text to, speech to text, then to go back and use text to speech to review what I've written, and then go in and correct it manually using my keyboard. And that process kind of works for me. So that's all good, and AI is a technology that is employed when using these kind of facilities. So I wouldn't say that that form of AI is bad. In fact, it's been a tremendous benefit to me and has allowed me to continue to pursue my dream of being a writer, despite the fact that I now have a disability. The other big way that AI has actually made things very useful for me is that there is now very sophisticated AI voices available. And I will speak specifically to a company called 11 Labs, which I believe to be kind of at the leading edge of this technology in terms of what's available to the public for a relatively small or modest fee. And I have used that technology, which I did to author my short stories, which are available on my channel, and which I have also used to write my first full-blown novel, which I have not yet released to the universe, but which I have created and uploaded to YouTube, which currently reside there as unlisted videos. So I've done that, and the reason why that kind of AI technology is incredibly helpful for someone like me is that it has allowed me to make contact with my work through the spoken word, because I simply cannot read my own work effectively anymore. So it needs to be read to me. And to have a really powerful AI that can actually speak to a level that is becoming closer and closer to that of how you would expect a normal person to be able to speak it is just allowing me to be able to critique my own work in a way where it's much closer to how I would expect other people to consume it, say if they were listening to it through an audiobook. In other words, if it is acceptable to me when it's read back by what sounds largely like a normal human being, and that I'm happy with what I've written, then it's just a great way for me to quality check my own work, at least as much as I'm subjectively able to do it and discern what I think is good and what I think is bad. So this again is a way that AI has been of tremendous help to me personally. Now, with all that said, there are some serious problems with artificial intelligence and what it means to people who create work. And I want to give you a very obvious example here. Everything I've written is effectively being captured by these AI tools online. And everything I say, everything I write, can be fed straight into the learning algorithm of other AI tools to be used as training data and then exploited in ways that I have absolutely no control over. So effectively, my work can be stolen. Let's say, for example, my novel is fed into an AI chatbot, and then let's say someone comes to that chatbot and says, can you write me a science fiction story, and can you theme it on blah blah blah, which might intersect roughly with the thematic of my novel, and then the AI tool can quite happily use everything it's learned from what I've written, along with any other source that it's taken, splice all that together, throw it in a tumble dryer, and then spit it out the other end in what is allegedly what they would call a creative piece of work produced by an AI. Of course, it's not creative. There's absolutely nothing creative about it. It's just stealing from other people who have actually done the work, blending it together, and then regurgitating it. And that is a deeply that's a systemic form of theft that is quite unique to the advent of this AI technology. And every artist, every creator is now at the mercy and vulnerable to this kind of exploitation. It is a problem like we've never faced before as a society, and it has serious repercussions on the future of the creative endeavor for humanity. Because if humans can no longer create work that can't be systematically stolen by these AI tools that then other people can use to then generate their own work, then the original creators are probably not going to be able to earn a living. It's not going to be feasible for them to exist within society as an artist, as a creator. And this will mean the death of human creativity. This is incredibly dystopian, because what it means is these AI tools, which will be exploiting human creativity, will actually end up having less and less work to steal from humans, because less and less humans will be actually even bothering to engage in the endeavour and to hone and develop their craft. So what these AI tools are going to start doing is they're going to start learning off themselves. You're going to have AI tools creating an AI generated science fiction novel, and then another AI tool is going to scrape that and learn off that. And so it's going to be like this sort of degenerative spiral downhill as the content becomes layers of AI trained on AIs. It's just dark in every possible way you can imagine. And I think we as a society need to be very, very aware of what's happening, of the dangers of what is happening. And we have to ask ourselves whether the thought leaders, the innovators in artificial intelligence, whether these are the type of people that we can trust to actually do it right, to be ethical in what they're doing, and to not exploit people, I guess, like me, and potentially people like you, and potentially people like anyone who create any type of content online and then make it potentially vulnerable to being exploited. And the answer here is very clearly no. We cannot trust these people. You cannot trust someone like Elon Musk. You cannot trust the owner of OpenAI, Sam Altman. We cannot trust Peter Thiel, the owner of Palantir. These are ghouls. These are terrible human beings, and there needs to be something done to control and legislate what they are allowed to steal from the community. I don't know whether that's ever going to actually happen, because it would require a sort of globalized level of legislation that would also be enforceable. And it would require tech companies to actually develop the tools to defeat these AI tools to protect people like us from that exploitation. So we would be asking the same people that are creating these exploitative tools to then create tools to stop them from being able to exploit us. There's a real conflict of interest there. I don't know what the answer is here. It may already be too late, but in my own bumbling way, I just wanted to talk about it. Something else I just want to mention quickly here is the fact that when I create these videos, it is one single take from beginning to end, no editing, no snipping. It's just me basically contemporaneously. Thought comes in my head and then comes out my mouth. So it's not going to be as concise and as manicured as someone who's actually developing a script and then reading off it, because I can't read a script. So this is the only way I can produce my content. So please bear with me and cut me some slack here. I am trying my absolute best. All right, Bendy out.